Welcome to the Divine Feminine Podcast, where I am your host, Priestess Haneera. Here I support women in learning and applying the Divine Feminine principles into their lives. We talk about lifestyle, family, culture, and spirituality, all from a traditional African perspective. Welcome to the safe space. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Divine Feminine Podcast. This is episode 10. Episode 10, can you believe we've almost been doing this for 3 months together? This has been an amazing journey. We are now approaching summertime, which is good. It's warm outside. I'm actually recording on Africa Day, which to some of you that may sound foreign. You may not have known we had an annual celebration day, and we've been doing this since 1963, this particular Monday. The rest of America knows this day as Memorial Day, but that's not what it means to me. Today is Africa Day. So happy Africa Day to everyone. I hope you're celebrating with your family. I hope you listen to some good literature, some good lectures today. I hope you are cooking and just spending time with family and like-minded people. So to go into today's podcast, we're going to finish up today with communal living, right? That's been part of the series that we've been doing for the last 3 weeks, and we're going to wrap up today with that series, Communal Living. I want to take a moment and thank everyone for just allowing me last week. Last week I kind of had a moment and shared some of my personal experience and personal life I was going through with my kid's father, and there was a tragic experience he had and how I was there for him and pulling together the different people that was in his lives, and I shared it on the podcast, and I appreciate you guys allowing me that moment. Because that's where I was last week. I don't think I could have talked about anything else because it had completely consumed my life. But just an update, he's doing well. He's progressing. He's out of intensive care. He's out of the coma. He's, on his road to recovery. So that is good. And as far as we're concerned, Divine Feminine Family, we are moving forward in our communal living part 4 series, right? So when we talk about the communal living, so far, just to recap the first couple episodes we had, the high points, right? So when we're talking about communal living, the reason we started this series was because we were bringing it up as a strategy to help us survive during this new normal, the pandemic that we're in right now. It's causing us to get creative and how we're going to survive, right? A lot of us are out of work. For some reason, we thought that the $1,200 stimulus check was going to be enough. No, and so a lot of us who have been really dependent on the system are going through, depression and anxiety and all types of things because, our lifelines have been cut. Bam. And so I was offering as a strategy as a people. I was offering for us to look at communal living as a strategy for many different reasons. You know, being a healer and being a spiritual person, I'm always thinking about that aspect of the human being and the human experience, and always trying to grow and harmonize the human being. That's my job. That's what I do. And so, as a strategy, we look to traditions for our answers, right? We look to our culture. As African people, we look to our African culture for answers. And so when you look at traditional life, when you look at village life, you look at families, people coming together with like minds and like goals. And so that is at the forefront, coming together with like-minded people who share your same values and your same goals, and whatever that looks like for you and what you're trying to do, you know, whether you're a single person, whether you're a mother with children, you know, whether it's a couple that's coming together with another couple, or maybe it's a bunch of single people together. You know, one of the foundational things you need to do when putting together your communal house is make sure you guys all have the same values and you're looking at life the same way, you know. And this is on a very broad scale. It doesn't mean you guys all have to have the same religion. It doesn't mean you all have to have the same, you know, spiritual beliefs or anything like that. But when it comes to being committed and how you're going to be looking at life as far as what you see as important, your evolution, the goals of the house, how you respond in certain circumstances, all of those things, you should have a common goal and a common foundation. And so that's what I mean by that when you come together. So that's number one. Right? Number two is, you know, why are you guys coming together? You know, you need to have that goal set and you need to remember that goal. And the reason you need to remember that goal is because it's not always going to be easy. You know, relating with humans and relating with people, whether you're related to them or not, is challenging. Communication and getting along is challenging. For one, we have to have control over ourselves and our emotional bodies and our egos. And then for two, we can't control anyone else. So, you know, you don't know how someone else is going to respond to your behavior, and you can't control their actions. And, you know, one of the things I found, because I've been doing communal living for close to a decade, I actually took a look at that. I think I said 6 years last week, but it's been close to 10. And one thing, you know, you realize in dealing with human beings that you can't control people, and you have to manage your expectations. You know, you can't expect someone to react a certain way or do certain things, especially when they're grown. And so in living with people, it really brings out your strengths and it brings out your weaknesses, you know. It really shows you where you are when you're living with people. And so that's one of the beautiful things. That's one of the beautiful things that comes with living communally and living with people, whether it's a large family house or it's, you know, like-minded people in the community coming together for a common goal. So you need to set that goal, right? Because that goal is going to be what binds you when times get tough. That's going to keep you from saying, to hell with this, you know, excuse my French, but it's going to be what keeps you from backing out and giving up and quitting, right? Because you're vested in that goal. Everyone who's in the communal house should be invested in that goal. There should be physical and or a material and non-material advantage for everyone Whether it's the children, whether it's the adults, the men, the women, everyone should have an advantage. People can easily say, well, the fact that I don't have to pay all the rent, that's an advantage. Yeah, that's one. That could be one. But as we go through, the communal living model, we'll see there's other ways that we all can benefit. And so you need to make sure that all of those things are set in the beginning, that you know what the goal is, what we're working toward, the time frame that we're giving ourselves, and everyone buys in. This is our goal. This is what we're set. This is what we're here to do, right? We're here to pay $500 a month in rent. We're here to allow ourselves an opportunity to share the responsibility of having a home so that we each can work on our personal gifts. Maybe that's it. It's for the individuals who are coming together to set the goal. The like-minded individuals, right? So you're like-minded one, and then you're setting the goal too. All right, so that's a recap from the first part, communal living, the first part, and the second part, and the third. And actually, in the second and third part, what we went over was the home and education. So two of the four components we went through: the home, inside the home and outside the home, right? So there needs to be, especially in this day and age, there needs to be someone who is working outside the home. When we first started the series a couple weeks ago, I called them the essential workers, right? Because we were in the middle of lockdown. As for right now, in many parts of the country, the world has started opening up, right? Everyone kind of started opening up for Africa Day or Memorial Day, and it's going to continue until it locks back down again. And so I'm hoping to have this series and other series out for you guys so that as things become locked again, or we're adjusting to this new normal, that you guys have these as resources to go to and learn from and things like that. So we went over the home, the four components. Number one is the home. All the things it takes in the home and outside the home to make the home, right? So we need someone working a job. We need someone in the home taking care of all the home responsibilities. And what are the home responsibilities? What did we go over? And this is just a recap. We haven't even touched the new material yet. To recap, we went over the cooking, the cleaning. We went over the farming. We went over the second part of inside the home is the education for the children, the culture of the home, right? The academics and the social environment. We also went over for the second part, which is education. We also went over the spiritual education, right? A couple episodes ago, before the communal living series, we had 2 episodes on the ancestral altar and why the ancestral altar and self-care is important. We need to be maintaining that education and practice in the home. And so we talked about that as one of the components, one of the 4 components to the communal living model, right? Why we come together, what's our goal, coming together with like-minded people. And one thing I need to say in putting together these 4 components, I'm just going to take a brief pause and segue into this, is that we need to make sure that we identify the roles and responsibilities of each person, right? And so that's important because people need to be clear on what their expectations are in the home. Who's in charge of what, and When things go awry, who do we call? What's the escalation path, or what's the structure? Right, that's one thing we haven't talked about, and I think next episode, which would be episode 11, when we go into sisterhood and how the women really are in charge of the architecture of the home and the structure. I think there I'll cover structure more. But as for this episode, episode 10, I think that I'll just say we need to identify the roles and responsibilities of each person, even the children in the home. Right? Even for the children, it's important for the children to have structure. It's important for them to have their role and responsibility, because they, just like the adults, need to feel a part of the family, a part of the communal home, a part of the goal, right? Because remember, we're all coming together for this particular goal. And so what does that look like? And we all have to have a role in that. And no role should be bigger than the other. You know, we should not give anyone more responsibility or praise, or no, everyone should be equal, right? Because each role is needed, and that's why, because each role is needed. And so there shouldn't, that's something we get in this Western society, is hierarchies and I'm better than you, and no. In our traditions, in our culture, we are all the same. Back to the Nile and the Pharaoh, times of the Pharaoh, every role in the kingship is important. So we need to remember that as we're putting together the roles and responsibilities. So those are important. And I'm just going to say this, and I'll go into deeper detail next week when I talk about the sisterhood. But in talking about the roles and responsibilities, right? Part of the reason it's important to come together with multiple men and multiple women and building the communal house is because we don't want the weight to fall all on one person. And in most times, especially in society today, the way we're currently set up, the role of taking care of the home falls on the shoulders of the woman. And in most cases, it falls on the shoulders of only one woman. When you talk about what's needed to run a successful home and a successful, communal home or a successful family, there's a lot of moving components. And so the way society has our families set up right now, it falls on the shoulders of one woman. And that causes a lot of stress for most of us. That causes depression in some points. That causes a lot of inadequacies and a lot of shortcomings. That with the pressure of the home being all on the shoulders of one person, something falls short, because you only have so much energy in the day. You only have so many hours in the day. And there's, only so many priorities you can prioritize and reprioritize as a human being. So even if, you're being totally efficient with your time, there's only so much you can do. And the way this Western society is set up, it makes it unfair. And so the beautiful thing about being in a communal family structure is that the responsibility is shared. The duties are shared. Now, in having those duties, there needs to be an aspect where you're leading. And this is everyone. So everyone should have an aspect that they're leading or managing. And then everyone should have an aspect where they're following and they're not the leader. And this creates balance, right? That woman that's in charge of the house full time, there's times she doesn't want to manage. There's times she wants to sit back and be told what to do. There's times she just wants to work and get the work done and not have to scold or correct or manage, oversight, And then there's times that people who are following, and I'll use the children because most times it's them, they have people coming down on them all the time. Did you do your chores? Did you take care of this responsibility you have? There's all this pressure, and they don't have an opportunity to show their leadership abilities. They don't have a opportunity to lead and show that they have ideas and show that they have their gifts and talents. And so it's important when you're doing the roles and responsibilities to also put in the dynamic of having everyone be a leader and be a follower in some, or a servant too, in some aspect of the home. So that's in addition to the goals, in addition to coming together with like-minded people. So this is as you're putting together the structure of the home, right? And the 4 components. So we've covered 2. In previous episodes, we've covered the home, and we also covered education. And the 2 that I want to go over today, the last 2 I want to go over today, is the business aspect and the economic aspect. And what do I mean by the business aspect? And so in order to cover that, I'm going to go back a little bit. But first, let me say this, that in African culture and in our culture, we believe that the human being has a goal, right? In general, right? We come with a destiny. We come with a mission. And it's important for us to fulfill that goal and that destiny, whatever that is. Sometimes it's, it's a big destiny. Sometimes it's a smaller destiny. Sometimes your mission isn't that big. But in all of those scenarios, we should be evolving or trying to meet that goal and trying to be a better person. And what does that look like? For each of us, that looks differently, right? What does being a better person looks like? And so that's why it's important for us to know ourselves and to know our family, because we have to do a self-evaluation. We have to examine ourselves, our family, and say, where can we improve? Where do we need to improve? Where are our shortcomings? And a lot of times as human beings, we don't start to look at that aspect until we become parents, right? So what do I mean by that? I mean, we don't start to see where we can improve or start to evaluate that until we have a mini-me in front of us and they act just like us. And we start to see ourselves and it's like, wow, have I always been a liar? Do people in my family lie? Right? Where did you learn to lie, little one? We find little things. Where did you learn to be so sneaky and so secretive? Huh? Where did that come from? And we start to see these little things. So what we want to do in being better people, we want to evolve. We want to have higher quality, higher standards, higher integrity. And so that's the character side, right? But then there's also the side of us that comes with gifts and talent. We're blessed with that. And it's our obligation as human beings to take those gifts and talents that we've been blessed with and evolve them, develop them, become better at them, take them to the next level. But a lot of us, we don't know. We don't know what our gifts are. We don't know what our talents are. Or this society has shunned our gifts and talent or misdirected. And, that's why, and I talked about it in earlier episodes, but that's why it's so important for us to go through initiation, right? Our rites of passage, to understand who we are, and as a people, and in the West, this just isn't offered as it should be, and in our culture, it's still intact, and so what we have to do is expose ourselves, right? So all we've been able to do on this side is just kind of expose ourselves to different things, expose ourselves to different crafts and activities and different instruments and different ways of developing ourselves, different educational paths in order to find what we're good at. All right, different jobs. What am I good at? And what am I supposed to be? What is my family good at? This is why it's good to know your parents and your grandparents and where you come from, and to evaluate them on both sides, on your mother's side and your father's side, right? What are we good at? If you would like to, say, I want a traditional education. I want initiation. I want to know what gifts and spirits and talents I come with. You guys should message me. That's something we can do. That's something that's very real, very intact, a part of our culture. It exists today. We're not exposed to it, right? But I'm here to expose you to it. I'm here to return you home. And so if that's your desire, you need to reach out to me, right? We have our trip in August. We're going back to Africa in August, and I'm bringing people with me that's their desire. They want to know, what am I good at? I'm adopted. I don't know my family. What characteristic traits, what path should I be going down? We can get you those answers. So I won't take any more time on that. But if you guys are interested, just message me. Go to the website, email me, find me on social media. You guys know I'm around. I'm here to help. Okay. But the reason I bring all this up, getting to know yourself, your gifts and talents, and evolving them, is because this is what we should be doing to sustain ourselves. This should be our passion. This should be our mission. This should be our business. We should all be entrepreneurs. We should all be developing our products or services, gifts and talents in order to give back to the divine, right? In order to express our gratitude to our ancestors for passing it down to us. And it's like, I've seen so many people, they don't know who they are. So many of us, even myself, before I knew who I was, we take on the identity of our colonizer because we don't know any better, right? And so what does that look like? We become cashiers and retail clerks, and we become customer service agents and insurance agents, and we take on all these odd jobs, right? We do all of these things. We put all of our energy into it, right? Because we're doing this to survive. We got to pay our rent. We're in the rat race. And we're not cultivating our talents and our gifts. We're not following our ancestral path. We're not being the highest forms of ourselves. We're not honoring our ancestors. And so in order to change that, we have to start knowing who we are and developing those gifts. And that takes us down the path of entrepreneurship. You know, if you are say you come from a line of healers, you know, who heal with medicine and herbs, and you have that gift, then you should be cultivating that. You should be farming, right? You should be growing your herbs. You should be learning how to heal, what a healer does, right? You should be creating your medicine, your herbal medicine, not Western medicine, herbal medicine, right? And then that is your gift, services, or products to society, right? We all should have a gift or product or service that we're giving to society. It is our way of giving back. It is our way of evolving. It is our way of recreating a better world. A better world. It's better because of us, because we make it. And so that takes us to stop working for other people's businesses and start working for ourselves, start working for our ancestors, and doing what they did for centuries, and start doing what their gifts are. So that's why each communal home should have a business. And in most instances, I mean, you want to get to a place where there's multiple businesses in the communal home. Because again, everyone should be expressing themselves. Now, in the beginning, that might be a little hard, right? In the beginning, that might be a little challenging because we're needing to survive. And we have to remember survival in this reality. And so, you know, someone will have to sacrifice and stay connected to the system and work a job and work for someone else and develop that person's, their dream. Honestly, I mean, when you're an employee, that's what you're doing. You're helping someone else develop their dream. You're not honoring your own ancestors. You know, I hate to be, the bearer of bad news, but you need to hear it that way. You need to hear it that way. And so, when you come together, that in a communal home, in a family, someone has to sacrifice and continue to work so that the one who is the closest to developing their gift or goal can get their business off the ground, right? And that takes some time, right? They're going to have to go inward. There's lessons to be learned in that. And you can't rob yourself of that process, because in that process, and again, we're talking about the third component to the communal home, which is business. In that process of developing your gift and your talent and your product and services, and you are learning lessons that are building your character and evolving you. making you should make you a better human being. Man, that's powerful, right? Because you have to survive. You have to do well, right? We see so many businesses out there, they fail and they don't succeed. And we never see the people bounce back. And they should be bouncing back. You don't give up. Keep refining. You keep going. Okay, that didn't work. Scratch that. Start again. Right? But you're starting with your gift and talent. And why is that important? Why do I say start with your gift and talent and what you're good at? Why is that? Because in our culture, we believe as African people that your ancestors stand behind you in supporting you in your bloodline, gifts, and talent. So you have existence, right? You have this whole unseen dimension, all your ancestors, right? You have all your ancestors with you, supporting you, bringing you what you need when you're doing what you should be doing. Okay? And so that's why you don't randomly do another job or do what someone else is supposed to be doing. No, you do what your blood is supposed to do. That's what you're good at. That's what you'll see you're blessed at. And it'll come natural to you. Why? Because you have the intellect and the ingenuity for it. It's in your blood. It's in your blood. And so start there. It makes it easier. There's going to be so many things that you're challenged at. There's going to be so many things that you're going to have to overcome. That's one thing you don't have to waste time in. And learning, oh, I'm good at this. No. Oh, I should have been doing this all this time. Or I always wanted to be a musician. And I stayed in customer service all these years. Develop your music talent if that's it, So, each person at the home ideally should be starting their own business. But initially, most of the people in the home will have to support the one or two people that are closest to developing their gifts and talents so that they can start their business and get their business off the ground, right? And a lot of times, currently, we see this in homes and it's just, man, woman, child, and, it's the man working and the woman's at home with her business, or it's the woman working. There's a lot of scenarios, a lot of families that I've encountered where, the woman is working, she's out there working in society, and it's the man at home cultivating his talent, or maybe he's in school or he's doing his entrepreneurial thing. And so it's important that we support each other and we have a goal. The goal is to get the business off the ground. And we're going to give it this amount of time and I'm going to support you in this. And ladies, if that's the arrangement, then we have to remember the goal. Right? We also have to put other things in place, other support systems in place so that we don't take, or the house doesn't fall short, and we don't take that full burden, right? That may mean we have to, bring other women in the house to share in the responsibilities. If one woman is working so that, one man can start his business, we may need to bring another woman into the home. I'm not saying she needs to be your sister wife. She can, Polygyny is definitely in the culture. But maybe it's your sister. Maybe it's your an auntie. Maybe it's a cousin. Maybe it's another family member. Maybe it's his sister. It doesn't necessarily have to be polygyny, but it could be. And that is also a strategy. We'll talk about that next episode as well. Because it may be that the woman is in the workforce. We know with the school to prison pipeline, we know with the war against black males, we know with the high incarceration rates of our black men that, when they get out and a prison or just the fight that they have in society, sometimes it's hard for them to be employed, and they don't want to be employed. And so we have to have a goal, right? And that's where we come with a goal, and we come with like-mindedness. This is the goal. And the goal of this house is to get this, this business off the ground, right? If you're a blacksmith and in this reincarnation, you're going to work on cars to get your blacksmith talent out, right? I'm just an example. Then while you're getting your clientele up, while you're learning how to work on the machinery, while you're apprenticing or going through school, your queen, the women in the house, the other men in the house, they may have to financially support the bills, right? And we give it time, okay? We're going to give them a year for school, give him another year to build business, and then he should have some financial contribution to give. And the goal is to get him sustained, not so he can leave the communal house, but so that he can start financially contributing to the communal house or to the family, so that another member can pull away from the system and start to develop their business. Do you see how that works? So once you have one business that is developed in the communal house, then you don't leave. You don't break out and go, right? We do that a lot. And as a people, we have to stop that, right? We make it, and what do? We move out the hood. No. We build up our community. But we're not taught that. That's part of our culture as African people, and we're not taught that. Western society didn't teach us so. Now it's for those of us who know, like myself, to teach you. That's not African. But it starts in the home, right? So in a very small instance, we sacrifice so that one business can make it. And one person can evolve and develop themselves to have something to contribute. And then that person has the obligation, once they build their business, they have an obligation to turn right around and do the same thing for those who help them, right? And so that kind of takes me into the fourth component to building the communal house, and that's the economics, right? That's the energy, the money, the l'argent, as my grandmother would say. And to go into that, I just want to talk briefly about our culture and go into sacrifice. I've been saying the word the last couple minutes, and just kind of talk about sacrifice, because that notion is deeply, deeply rooted in our belief system as African people. It's tied to our spirituality. How is it tied to our spirituality, priestess? Everything in our culture, by the way, is tied to our spirituality. Most times, people either don't know or they don't know how to explain it, so they don't. But that's one of the beautiful things about working with priests, is that they're able to tie it to our spirituality and explain it to you at the level where you're at. So that's what I'm gonna do with sacrifice. Okay? So understand that as a people, we believe in certain universal principles. And you guys can Google's great, right? Look up, put in universal principles and see what comes up. Do your research. And in those universal principles, so there's certain principles that this whole existence that we are having right now are based on. Everything, the human species, the animal kingdom, the astrology, the planets, everything, every science, everything in this existence, everything that we can see, the seen and unseen, is based on certain principles. And when you understand those principles, it helps you understand existence and how and your place in it, right? And so what does that have to do with the notion of sacrifice? And so one of the universal principles, that we believe in is it's like rhythm, right? And in rhythm, we know there's an ebb and flow, right? You know there's a yin and there's a yang, there's opposites. You must give in order to receive, right? Those are universal principles. It's all based on a universal principle. You cannot take anything from existence without giving first, period. Existence just doesn't work like that. Existence is full. And so you can't pull happiness. You can't pull love. You can't pull prosperity. You can't pull wealth. You can't pull any of the things that we want from existence without giving something first. And you have to give the opposite, right? You have to give an offering, right? So we know that in everything in existence is governed by a spirit. And that spirit is a representation of the God Almighty, the One. Okay? And so, with that, if we want something, we have to give something to the spirit. Okay? So, in order, say we want anything, happiness, joy, wealth, prosperity, there's a spirit that governs over that aspect of existence. And so we have to give an offering. We have to give a sacrifice to that spirit, to that unseen aspect in existence in order to receive what we want. We have to give some pain, some sweat, some uncomfortableness, some struggle. We have to struggle in order to gain or receive what we want. Again, I'm trying to be slow so I can tie it all in for you. And so, when we give these offerings, another word for offerings, we can call it our sacrifices, right? We can give a sacrifice. And sometimes we know that to be anything. You know, it could be money, it could be our time, our energy. It can be a goat, a hen. It could be food offerings, sacrifice. You know, there's different things that can be sacrificed, so to speak. And so, and this is what we give to the Spirit. So how does all that play into the fourth structure, which is economics? When we give these sacrifices to the Spirit, to the unseen, we have an expectation, or how I like to call it, we have a wish that we put with that expectation. We are wishing for prosperity. We are wishing for good health. We are wishing for protection. And so we have that expectation, and that's why we give this sacrifice. And so we should always be sacrificing something, because we're always wanting good things for ourselves and for our family. And so when it comes to economics, and when it comes to our energy in the communal home, we should be giving to other people and putting our wishes on it, right? And so for economics, there is a process in the village, and this happens today in many villages. There's a process, and I know is it Nigeria? Is it Ghana? Forget the traditional language, but it's called susu. And what it is, it's a lottery. It's a gifting pool. And what happens is that communally, people come together and give, and they sacrifice, they give, a certain amount of money, and they give it in a certain frequency. And that gift is given to one of the people in the pool, right? So what does that look like? So let me tell a story first, right? So I was in Africa January of this year, and I went for just 2 weeks, and I was going for the Divine Feminine Festival. It happens every year, the end of January, right after the Voodoo Festival in Benin. There's, within like a week or two after the Voodoo Festival, they have the Divine Feminine Festival. And this is where people from all over the world come and give respect to the Divine Mother, right? The sacred feminine. And so I had flown into Benin, and I was there for 2 weeks for the festival. And 2 days into my trip, I get a call that I get called into my priestess temple, and she tells me that my father passed away. Wow. I was devastated. So I spent the rest of my trip preparing to go back home and bury my father. And that was a really tough time for me. But I'm so grateful that I got the message while in Africa, while with my priestess, because she was able to help me through that process, right? So So why am I bringing this up? So on Sunday, normally the village gets together, and this particular Sunday was no different, and the village came together. And when they came together, she said they want to greet you and let you know how they're feeling about your father passing. And I was a little shy, and because of everything, and just mourning. But I, allowed them to come and give their condolences to me. And they said, we want to do something for you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, you don't have to. They're like, no. We are African. We do. When someone's in need, we do. And so they said, we're going to come together and see what we can do. And so they came together, and the next Sunday we met again. And again, all the village comes together on Sunday. And the queen of the village, she said, I want to present you with this gift. And I said, what do you mean? She said, everyone in the village gave towards your father's funeral. And I said, you gotta be kidding. Are you serious? And she said, yeah. And I was like, no, this can't be. Why? I'm here to give to you guys. I'm here to learn and to help build the village. Dude, no, don't give to me. She said, you have to accept it, And I was so touched. And here's why I was personally touched. A lot of people in the village, their salary, right? The things that they make a daily wage, whatever that looks like. But a lot of times, some of the women there in the village, they make about, say, 10,000 sefa. And when I looked at the sheet, 10,000 sefa is about $20. They make $20 a month, and they're supposed to feed their families off of it. And I'm like, okay. And I looked at the sheet, and every person had given about 1,000 sefa. And I'm like, that is 10%. And some people had given more. 10%. Sometimes it was 5,000 sefa. And I'm like, they're given anywhere from 10 to 50% of what they made or could have made. I was just so touched. So it wasn't the amount I was bringing back, and because as it translates to American money, it didn't come to much. But that's not the point. The point is that they sacrificed for me in order to give to my father. And so that really helped me understand just how deeply rooted sacrifice is in our culture today. And each person, they put their wishes on the money. They wish this for me and for themselves. They wish this not only for them, their household, but for my family too. And I was just honored, because in America, it's hard for us to sacrifice to that level. I mean, honestly, like, as you're listening to this podcast, could you imagine giving anywhere from 10 to 50% of your income to a person in need? Some of us, we're so selfish. We don't have that level of sacrifice for another human being. And so I gave you that history of sacrifice in our culture, how it's tied to our spirituality, and how it's tied to our traditions and our culture. When it comes to communal living, it's important that we also adopt the notion of sacrifice when it comes to economics, right? So whether that's you being the one who is working to pay the rent so that the entrepreneur can get their business off the ground, or in this particular example, with the susu or the gifting pools, I'm suggesting that we pool our money together. And why do we pool our money together? Why? Because we need to be self-sufficient. We need to be self-reliant. We need to do for ourselves, right? We put our wishes on that money and we sacrifice for a common what? A common goal. And so within the home, we should be saving and sacrificing, but also outside of the home. So in the home, what does that look like? That may mean we're sacrificing and we're sharing a room with someone. We're roommating, right? Not only are we communal living, but maybe we're sharing a room. There's 2 people in the room just so we can condense space and be able to save our resources. You know, maybe we are putting a certain amount of money to the side, right? We're going to save as a home. We're going to set the goal of saving $500 a month. And what do we have to sacrifice in order to save $500 a month? And the $500 a month we're saving it for a goal, either for the business, or we're saving it to go a part of a bigger susu or a bigger gifting pool. Or maybe we have 2. Maybe we save our money for the house, but then a part of that also goes to a bigger gifting pool. Okay? And so the gifting pool, we're saving the $500 and we save it for a certain amount of time. Maybe we do the frequency every month. Maybe we do it every quarter. Maybe we do it semi-annually. But that pot goes to someone in the contribution, in the pool. So if you have 4 people and you're saving $500 a month, maybe you do it quarterly. And maybe each quarter, every person in the pool gets $1,500 for the sacrifice. And they put that towards their business to help fund their business, right? So that's how that works. We're pooling money together to help ourselves, but more importantly, to help those in the community, those in the family as well. It's a way of sacrificing and giving back. And so we don't, here this society is so backwards. They tell us to give our money to the church. You don't give your money. No, you give to your divinity. You give to your own self, right? You sacrifice for yourself. And this is how we pull ourselves up. You see how that works? Because anytime we give to something outside of ourselves, we are expecting that thing that we're giving to outside of ourselves to save us or to give to us. And that's not the case. So we don't give outside of ourselves. We give to ourselves. So you come with a group of people that are like-minded for the common goal. And that becomes yourself. That becomes your family. That becomes who you are. And you go for that common goal. And you sacrifice for that goal. And you sacrifice for yourself to be self-governing. And then you, again, combine with other like-minded communal homes or other families and go into larger pools. Because if you had 100 people giving $100, how much is that every month? That's a larger pool. You get what I'm saying? That's $10,000, I believe. Or, yeah, 10,000. And so you could see the benefit. And of course, you don't pull out once you win. Once it's your week to get gifted, you don't pull out, just like you don't pull out when your business is up and running. We have to have a sense of loyalty. A sense of loyalty to ourselves, a sense of loyalty to the community, to our goal, to our family. We have to have that loyalty. And so our time has gone over. I'll recap, of course, next week. But we've covered all 4 components now at this point to putting together our communal home. Right? We've covered the house itself, the home, inside and outside the home, number 1. We covered the education piece, the component that needs to be there. That's number 2. Number 3, we talked about the business, the evolution. And then number 4 is the economics, the sacrifice. So I hope this podcast has been informational for you. I hope this podcast has helped you. I hope you learned something from this podcast. If you guys have any questions and you want to go a little deeper, or you want me to examine your particular individual situation, email me, message me. I have no problem doing that. We can schedule a session. Until next week, everyone, be well. To schedule a spiritual reading, life coaching session, or to order herbs and tonics, please see our website, divinefeminine.net. If you would like information on our trip to Africa in August, please email haneeraabunu@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the Divine Feminine Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, share, and join the conversation on social media. You can find us on all social media outlets at Haneera Abunu.